In the last episode, we talked about design patterns as a framework for problem solving. It's a very beautiful framework. It's a very sophisticated framework, but it's not the only framework out there. Today, I wanted to take this discussion further and talk a little bit more about a few other frameworks for problem solving, specifically Fishbone root cause analysis technique and the 5 why root cause analysis technique. Let's start with the Fishbone root cause analysis technique. In the Fishbone root cause analysis technique, what you do is on one side of the diagram, you draw a diagram, and it's called the Fishbone root cause analysis technique because it looks like a fishbone, right? On the right hand side or any one side, you draw the fish head, and the fish head is basically a square, and you write down the problem in that particular square or rectangle. And then you draw a backbone from the middle of the rectangle, and you create these fins, or rather the ribs of the backbone, and you write down the various causes of that problem. The various causes could be, one could be people, the other one could be equipment, then one could be process, or one could be environment, or the other one could be equipment and machinery. There are various things that could cause this root cause, and depends on what the problem is, right? So, you draw this and you write down in very short what these causes are, right? And then you try to create hairs in each one of these ribs of the fishbone. And in these small hairs that you create, you drill down the cause. Why is it that people is an issue? Or why is it that process is an issue? Or why is it that equipment is an issue, and so on and so forth. And then you try to find solutions for each of these causes, right? How are you going to solve the people problem? Or how are you going to solve the equipment problem? Or how are you going to solve the process issue, and so on and so forth. And that's how you basically do root cause analysis using the Fishbone technique. Now, the things that you do in design thinking, have an open environment, break it down into smaller teams, etc., can also be used in the Fishbone technique. But Fishbone technique is a much more simpler technique. It's not a framework really, it's a technique. And it is specifically used when a problem is caused by multiple reasons. A problem has multiple causes. That's where you use the Fishbone root cause analysis technique. The other technique that I wanted to talk about today is the 5 whys technique. So Taichi Ono of Toyota used to use 5 why techniques whenever there is equipment failure. And one of the examples that is a classic example that's given many times, quoted everywhere, is the 5 why techniques of equipment failure. So for example, let's say that there is a control box and a fuse is blown inside the control box. Now, one way of solving that problem is to replace the fuse. It's a simple problem to solve. But then you must ask the question, why was the fuse blown in the first place? So let's say that you ask the question why the fuse was blown in the first place, and you find out that there was an overload. And the overload was caused by the bearings not getting sufficient lubrication, right? So the bearings are not getting sufficient lubrication, so they are not rotating fluently, and because of which there is an overload and the fuse is blown. So then, you know now that if we replace the bearings, then the fuse will not be blown. But the question then arises is, why was the bearings not getting appropriate lubrication, right? So if you ask that question, you come to know that the pump that delivers the lubricant to the bearing is not working properly. All right. So now you replace the pump. But the question is, why is the pump not being able to deliver the lubricant to the bearings properly? So then you find out that the shaft that delivers the lubricant to the pump is worn out, right? That's why it's not being able to deliver the lubricant properly, right? So you replace the shaft. But the question is, why is the shaft worn out, right? So we find out that if we put a strainer at the mouth of the shaft that delivers the lubricant, it will not allow metal particles to enter the shaft, which eventually end up wearing out the shaft that delivers the lubricant to the bearing that basically causes the overload. So now if you put a strainer, the fuse will not be blown out that frequently. You've solved the problem. So instead of putting a band-aid on top of a problem at the superficial level, you try to get to the root cause of the problem by asking 5 whys. Now, it's not 5. 5 is an optimum number, right? You ask why 5 times, the probability of you getting to the absolute root cause of the problem is very high. But sometimes it is 3 whys and sometimes it is 8 whys, depending upon how deep the problem runs, right? Sometimes the problem doesn't run too deep and you'll get to the root cause by asking why 3 times. Other times you may have to ask 8, but 5 is usually the optimum number. So there are n number of techniques and frameworks of problem solving that are available out there, and these are tools and techniques that we use to solve our problems, to go about our life, doing our life, making our life easier and simpler. Usually we don't do that. We forget that there are these techniques available to us to solve problems. We just look at a problem, find a solution, fix it, and it's a temporary fix, and it's not really a deeper analysis of the problem. So whenever you encounter a problem, there are these techniques. Think about them and use them and get to the bottom of the problem, and life will become much easier. Problems will not recur for a longer period of time. So that's my episode today. It's a shorter episode as compared to the other episodes, but nevertheless, that's what we have today. These episodes have been recorded ahead of time. I am actually on a motorcycle trip to the far northeast of India. It's called a state of Mizoram. I'll be riding from Hyderabad. I live in Hyderabad. So I'll be riding my motorcycle. I have a beautiful BMW R1250 GS Adventure motorcycle. I'll be riding the motorcycle from Hyderabad to Assam first, and then I'll rest a few days there. I belong to Assam actually. And then I have a small house there. And then from there, I will be riding to Mizoram for 2 weeks. And then I will ride back to Assam. And then I'll ride back to Hyderabad. It's a 3 to 4 week adventure. I'll be working remotely for a short period of time, and then I'll be on vacation for some time. So I've recorded these sessions ahead of time. In all probability, when this is getting published, I will be on my way back actually. Well, I would have already spent about 3.5 weeks in the Northeast, and I'm not entirely sure if I'll be able to record one more episode before I go, because I'm leaving on Friday and today is Tuesday. So if you are interested in that kind of a thing, I also have a YouTube channel on which I'm going to be recording all these sessions. So if you are interested in that kind of a thing, look for Motorcycle Meditations on YouTube and you'll see my adventures. That's all I have for you today, folks. Once again, I would like to remind you that Enterprise Architecture Radio is not just a podcast. It is a collaboration platform for enterprise architecture enthusiasts, IT professionals, people who are interested in this kind of stuff to get together and talk to each other and help each other out and learn from each other. But most importantly, have fun.